Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Misfits Racing League broadcast. My name is Strifium, and joining me as always for Club Division, Unicorn, we are back. How you feeling?
Yep, our final race in Canada for the time being, the last of the week, and what a week it's been. Looking to round it off as always on a Friday with another excellent race here in Club Division.
Yeah, I'm a little bittersweet. The home Grand Prix has been providing some seriously intense racing, but of course it is going to be the fourth and final trip here around Montreal, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Of course, you can see it now on screen there. Very unique circuit with the DRS. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to catch a race. 14 turns, 4.36 kilometers here. It is a very unique circuit to race around. Of course, let's take a look at the calendar for these drivers and where they've been through already. Just like Tier 1 and Tier 2, they've been through Australia, Bahrain, Vietnam, China, the Netherlands, as well as Spain, Monaco, and most recently we did the Azerbaijan Grand Prix Racing Week last time around. So we are finally here for Club Division. It is going to be round number 9 for Canada. So very excited about that. Of course, next week we move on over to the French Grand Prix in France, of course, with Austria to round out the first half of the season. And then we move ahead into the second leg, and this is, I think, where things are going to get really interesting because it kicks off, of course, with the iconic Silverstone, the British Grand Prix. Then you have Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Singapore, which can present its own challenges. Then you have Russia, Japan, the US, Mexico, and Brazil. Following that, you have Abu Dhabi to round out the season. Take a look at who's on the grid today. We have one driver switch. It's going to be the Racing Point of Jones taking over things for Alpha. Alpha has stepped down out of that seat. So it's going to be ZZ9 and Fraser for Mercedes. You have Alex Bitto and Jake with the Ferrari squad. That's Ben and Remco Van Putten for Red Bull. Mito and Burke for McLaren. You have Nigel and Arda over at Renault. Freeware and Finn for AlphaTauri. And again, Burke Khan and Jones over at Racing Point. I think Burke Khan is serving a major penalty. We'll jump onto that in a second. But of course, Shenjay and Money for Alfa Romeo. You have the Teum and Severin XTXP duo for Haas with Emre and Domi rounding out the grid for Williams. And we'll take a look at the, of course, standings here for Club Division. Alex Bitto is currently in charge of this championship. The Ferrari, 110 points. ZZ9 very close behind with 106. And then you have Shenjay in the Alfa Romeo rounding out your top three. It's a Mercedes-led championship at present. You can see Fraser there in fourth. Then the Honda-powered drivers, you got Ben, Freeware, Van Putten kind of rounding out the mid-pack of that top 10. Then you have Nigel, Money, and Mito rounding out the last three. Of course, Burke Khan is going to be serving a race ban, actually, following intentional crash retirement in, I believe it was turn 15 of Baku last week. So we'll have to see, what comes out of that for the Racing Point squad. Moving on from that, though, with that all being said, I think we're just about ready to go racing here, Unicorn.
Yep, another full grid, 20 drivers raring to go. And yeah, both the Racing Points, you've got Jones and Yoda in those two seats this evening. So we'll see. We know both of them. We've seen them both race plenty of times before.
Yes, of course. Yoda with a very unique race yesterday, catching a podium in the end with a very unique finish. It was down to the line, down to 0.02 of a second, if I'm not mistaken, between him and Van Putten. I think penalties also played a role at the end of it. Otherwise, maybe Van Putten may have actually had the third place finish there over the McLaren.
Yeah, and kind of penalties definitely something racers need to be aware of with the new track limits. We've seen a whole host of penalties being applied to drivers throughout this week. Whether we see it again this evening, we'll have to wait and see. But here we are loading into the qualifying for 18 minutes.
Well, we've been looking for that roll of the dice all week for rain, Unicorn, and we haven't seen it at all. We're not seeing it again here in quali. We've had a lot of clouds. We had clouds in a couple races this week, but no rain.
Yeah, whether we get it for the race yet to be seen, and sometimes that can be a little bit more interesting if you've got everyone qualifying in the dry. Maybe those who are strong in the wet, they don't get to take advantage of that in the qualifying, but as soon as the race comes, they're sort of behind people who maybe they're a little bit faster than when it comes to wet conditions. So right now, the skies are as clear as can be, but maybe the track can get a little bit damp for us come the race.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this one here, waiting for all these drivers to get things set up. A couple drivers, a good chunk of drivers on this grid today have had previous experience. Ben the Bear even had some experience around here yesterday in the Oceanic practice race. But we've seen Remco, Yoda, we've seen Ben this week around here. We've seen Domi, Fraser, Freeware, as well as Shenjay. So there's quite a few drivers that have prior experience now on the circuit heading into this race, and that's something that we've seen in Club throughout the season, is a lot of drivers come in here really, really ready to go with a lot of practice coming through that full race week for the Misfits Racing League. First car that's going to be out here is going to be a Williams, I believe. That may be Domi. Oh, it may not. I think that might be Lamp. Lamp in a reserve seat, I do believe, here today. He drove yesterday in a reserve capacity as well for Tier 2. Showed great pace, but I think that some of the dynamics that presented themselves in Tier 2 yesterday just didn't work in his favor.
Yeah, like you say, definitely not a slow driver, so if, we see maybe less safety cars that and the strategy's a bit more linear, we might see him perform a little bit better, but he will be the first person, presumably, to set a flying lap here around Canada, provided it's valid. We've seen that plague drivers over this last week, where the track limits, not only do they cause penalties in the race, they invalidate laps here in qualifying, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, it seems there is a random member that's joined, as I have now personally made the mistake of keeping this lobby friends only. So if anyone should know the driver that joined the lobby that's watching the stream or that's in the lobby, please tell him to leave so that I think Alex Bitto can join back. But it's going to be Lamp now through the 3-4 chicane here, coming through turn 5. Now through 6. And 7, and a bit of a slide coming out of 7 there. He gets it under control, but it's going to cost him.
There he is. He is out of the session, so that's free as we see Lamp come down towards the turn 10 hairpin in the Williams. The corner we've seen have a lot of action this week, and a little bit unexpectedly. You had Dirk almost overtaking 2 drivers through there last night in Tier 2.
Well, one of those drivers happened to be Lamp as well in that exchange. Lamp managing to keep it. So first time set here, a 109.7. Next driver to cross is going to be Jones, a 109.339 in the Racing Point. Then it's going to be Max Inkster, a 109.769.
Yeah, I'm already seeing a lot of invalidations across the board here. A lot of people coming into the pits, and there's a stationary McLaren. It's Mito. That's just cost, I think that was ZZ9, a lot of time out of champions. Had to swear to avoid him. His teammate Fraser, a 108.5. It's Shenjay, though, a 108.2. That is the fastest lap so far here this evening. Ben the Bear on medium compound tyres, a 108.7, a very quick lap time, given the tyre compound he's chosen to go with there.
Jake coming out of champions in the Ferrari. He sets 4th quickest here, 108.754, and this grid is already immediately very tight in that top 10.
Yep, there we go. Alex Bitter has rejoined the session, which is always a welcome sight, but still a lot of drivers here invalidating these lap times. So we'll have to see who's able to set the fastest flying lap time, as Mita now flying off the end of the turn 10. Definitely an unvalidated lap time. I think he's just trying to get out of the way. But I do believe Astrodite in the Haas will be the next person to set a flying lap time, provided he can get through the champion chicane with no invalidations. And it's a big here on the right-hand side of the track. He's lost an end plate there, but he comes across the line on 109.7 for the Haas driver.
Very, very, very nice from him. But he's going to have to clean up that exit out of 14 there, taking that end plate off. Going to cost him a lot. Arda comes across in 13th. Tim and Sever on an invalidated lap right now, as is Finn.
Yeah, and these invalidations in qualifying, you are pushing the limits, obviously, to try and get the single fastest lap you can string together, but at the same time, invalidations in qualifying usually allude to penalties in the race, so a lot of these drivers, they're going to want to be a little bit cleaner than what they are right now. Remco Van Putten, he's just started a flying lap. He's flying through sector 1, but he has hit a wall, and it looks like he's aborting this lap. ERS down to 0, and an end plate has come off the right-hand side of that front wing.
Tim and Sever has just begun a flyer, and I believe Freeware has as well in the Alpha Tower. He's coming through out of turn 7 now.
Yeah, the Alpha Tauri down through between 7 and 8. That DRS straight into the 8-9 chicane. And we've seen turn 9. That's proved to be a little bit tricky on exit for some of the drivers. Whether we'll see a few drivers miss the traction, I guess, and spin into that left-hand side wall. Or even, my words there, coming into the right-hand side wall as well, which is a little bit surprising to me. But we've seen it a couple times over the last week. But spinning into that left-hand side wall is usually the culprit, as Freeware through the Champions chicane is going to come across the line. It's looking like a strong time for the Avatar, 108.2, and he just nudges past Shenjie, and that's 200ths of a second between him and the Alfa Romeo driver.
Meanwhile, checking back in with Tim and Sever, who we saw start a flyer not too far behind Freer. He's just come out of the hairpin, and he's got a significant amount of damage on that front wing right now, so I don't know if he's going to be able to finish out this lap. I think we're going to see him come into the pit lane here, and there it is as he flies through into the pit lane. The Mercedes of ZZ9 coming down through that chicane to start a lap, and it's going to be Fraser here on his out lap about to come through. So ZZ9 coming through down turn 2. You can see out of turn 2 here, waiting to get on that power because it's so easy to lose the rear coming out of turn 2. Not easy to get that traction. A lot of drivers on flyers now. A couple of those are going to be the McLarens. I think Mito just started, and Burke is already ahead of him coming out of 8-9, so we'll jump on with him.
Yeah, I've been on board with him because right behind him he's got the Williams of Lamp as well. Burke not set a time yet in the new livery or updated livery on that McLaren, but they're both coming now through turn 12 onto the long DRS straight before the champion chicane. Which one of these drivers is going to come out on top? Burke keeping it valid, and he's going to cross the line. It's not going to be a bad time from him. It's a 109.1. That puts him into 9th place. Lamp, on the other hand, he's on 108.7.
Yeah, cheeky toe coming out of the Williams there. Of course, he got the toe on the McLaren, and it's going to be beautiful for him. And another McLaren that's about to set a first time of the session, that's going to be Mito into 12th, as Ben jumps onto pole position, a 107.990.
Yeah, Ben the Bear on the back of last week's race win for the Red Bull.
Alex Bitto coming down through the casino straight into the Wall of Champions chicane. Of course, 13-14 there. A lot of entry curb, keeps it valid, comes through on the exit. Very strong performance here. What's the time going to be? It's looking good. It's P4, or 108.2, and considering how he went around here in Tier 1 yesterday, he's going to be happy with that, because Q1, he did not have the best drive, that's for sure, when it came to qualifying. Of course, Remco Van Putten, he's currently on an invalidated time. There's just a whole whack of intensity that's about to unfold on this grid, because if you look right now, the gap to leader from 1st to 10th is less than 8 tenths. And it's a tight grid here in qualifying. Of course, if you're just tuning in, my name is Strifium. Got a little bit of a toe there is Shenjie as he comes to set a flyer. He wants to improve. The current time is a 108.265, but of course, you're here for Tier well, Club Division Racing, Misfits Racing League. Of course, grab your friends, share that link because the race is about to begin. And Shenjie improves onto the front row ahead of Freeware. Of course, teammates in Tier 1 not here. Shenjie and Freeware have been having a qualifying battle all throughout the season in both Club Division and Tier 1. And it's continuing today. We'll have to see if Freeware has an answer for the Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, Remco Van Putten is about to start another flying lap, I do believe.
Yeah, I've been on board with him for the past lap. Obviously, that last one invalidating. He seems to be struggling a little bit here around Canada tonight. He hasn't been able to set a valid lap. We saw him hit the wall earlier a little bit, lose that end plate, and now another invalid lap time. Is this one going to be the lap he sets his qualifying time on, or is he going to have to get one more in after this on a fresh set of softs? But right now, here he comes down towards turns 8 and 9. He's still valid at this point in time. Now, this slightly curved straight into the turn 10 hairpin. A little bit sideways on exit, but nothing he can't correct. And now through 11 and 12 into the DRS straight, passing one of the racing points there.
The last driver to set a time is the Dutchman here. And he's invalidated it through the chicane. Ooh, not going to be happy is Remco Van Putten. I could only imagine.
Yeah, still struggling to set that valid time as Fraser on the mediums. He's just invalidated through turns 3 and 4, so he's not going to be happy either. A lot of drivers here invalidating these lap times. Possibly the most struggle we've seen so far this week. And this could lead to a lot of penalties if these drivers aren't careful here.
Another driver here, Money, coming through the 3-4 chicane, touching through turn 5 now, that gradual right-hander into this 6-7 chicane section. Then we go in through in sector 2, you have that DRS straight, the rear wing wide open for the Alpha. And Money has had some good races. The most notable, I think, would be Monaco. For me, at the very least, such patience shown there. And Canada in itself can be a circuit where patience needs to be shown. The DRS here can be very powerful. You really need to pick and choose your battles. It's a circuit where there's a lot of hard braking, possible overtaking points on straights, especially where we're coming out now. Out of turn 10, you touch through turn 11, then you have this invisible turn 12 almost on this curvature end of the straight, and then you come down this casino straight into this Wall of Champions chicane. And of course, we'll have to see what the lap time's going to be. Currently looking to improve. A little bit shaky there on entry and exit of that chicane. A 110 flat the current time. What's the new one going to be? It's a 109.170 into 13th position. A near 9/10th improvement coming out of Money.
One person, Burke Alkis in the McLaren. He's just had an issue coming out of turn 7. He was into the wall. No damage on that McLaren though. So he's got away a bit lightly there, but yeah, he's our first sort of major incident that I've seen so far in the qualifying session, and we've been going for 14 minutes now, so...
Yeah, Ben the Bear as well is about to cross the line. Unicorn, he's looking to improve on a 107.990. Can he do it? He does not, so he was actually unable to improve on his second run here. Cutting through turn 1 and 2, he's going to try and get back in to get back out so that he can get perhaps a better lap through. Shenjie and Freeware really aren't too far off of him right now. You can see the gap to leader between 3rd, 2nd, and 1st is only 0.253. That, well, 2.5 tenths.
Yeah, and Alex Biddo currently sitting in 4th place. He has invalidated his most recent time, getting out of the way of his teammate Jake there, who's flying down the log back straight, but looks like neither of them are actually on a flyer right now. Both Ferraris coming back into the pit lane.
A little bit of driver 1, driver 2. Let me get into the pit lane first action going on for the Ferrari squad right now. Max Singster, he's coming out of the turn 10 hairpin. You can see he's another victim of that invalidation, that red track map on screen. These drivers not able to get clean laps through, and it's all because of this final chicane that he's just gone and passed.
Yeah, these invalidations, it is a tricky circuit to fully maximize every single curve inside outside to get the most out of one singular lap here, but those are the limits that you need to be aware of. And the drivers who are able to maximize as much of the track as possible, they're going to be the ones at the top of this lap. As we got Freeway, he's warming his tires down the back straight, getting ready for one of his, if not his final run of the evening here in qualifying. DRS open on the Avatar as he crosses the line to start his flyer into turn one.
Just shaving that. He just shaved it. Like he almost took all of the car off onto that curbing. And it was just those right-hand tires through that turn one section. And very nicely done from him.
Yeah, this is what we're saying about maximizing these track limits. A lot of these drivers, they think that some of these corners are maybe a bit too lenient, and compared to others where turns 3 and 4 were brought up, where turn 3 you can't really take a lot of the curves, but turn 4 you can shave a lot of that inside track off, and even take some of the grass if you need to. But Freeway now down into turn 10, the hairpin, and he's got through there very cleanly. A nice exit as well, power down into the DRS. We'll have to see, can he improve? He's currently sitting on a 108.243 current pole time, a 107.990. He's kept it valid through champions into the DRS zone. It's a strong time from him. It's a 108 flat. It's a 2/10 improvement, and it knocks Shenche down a position, who is still in the pit lane, but he's coming out for one last attempt, it would appear.
A lot of drivers on laps now. A lot of drivers getting out. That calm before the storm has ended, and everyone getting final runs in. We're going to jump on with who we may be able to find on a lap. It looks like Fraser has invalidated. ZZ9, his teammate, however, has also invalidated coming through that final chicane. So it's just been a major struggle for a lot of these drivers here. Tim and Severs come out of turn 5 through into the 6-7 chicane. Domi and the Williams pulling off outside line there to allow him through.
Yeah, and our provisional pole sitter as Domi retires from the session.
Ooh, a little bit shaky on entry through into 8-9, and that's a big crash for the Haas, and we caught it as it happened, Unicorn. That turn 9 all week has been a pain in the neck. Now Tim and Sever on the inside, allowing his teammate through. That's Astrodite in the other Haas. He's coming through the hairpin, and guess what, Unicorn? He's got a red track map as well, so it's these invalidations really hurting a lot of these racers here today.
Yeah, someone who doesn't have a red track map though at the moment, Ben the Bear. He's currently a 10th or so up on his previous best time. Freeway currently holding the second position, has retired from the session. He is done for qualifying. Shenche though, he's on a flyer as well, so we'll have to see where he stacks up at the end of this session. But here comes Ben the Bear onto the start-finish straight. DRS wide open on that Red Bull, and it's a 107.8 from Ben the Bear. Shenche currently in the second sector, just coming out of turn 7. Can he beat Freeway or even Ben here for pole?
Oh, that's going to be a no, as he took a little bit too much of turn 8 on the inside curbing there. He has invalidated as we see him pull down through into the hairpin.
Yeah, and someone else who won't be challenging, Alex Biddo. He's got a lot of damage on his front wing, currently sitting in 6th place, so I don't think there's going to be anyone here challenging Ben for pole here this evening.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers currently out. Those track maps all lit up red, and we may be looking at the final grid here. Yoda in the Racing Point, he is pulling out through very deep in this hairpin right now. I'm not entirely sure. He's got no ERS being utilized. He's got a fuel light on. He could be on an in-lap here, but it is done now, qualifying. And I think anybody who had potential to get another lap in is either invalidated or has come into the pit lane. Yeah, and that's going to be Yoda out of this session. So Ben the Bear, who's following him into the pit lane here, on pole position. Freeware lines up on the front row next to him in the sister car. That's the Alpha Tauri in second, and Shenje in the Alfa Romeo in third.
Yeah, an interesting qualifying session, like we were saying. All those invalidations cost a lot of drivers here, I think, and if they can't avoid those track limits in the race. It's going to be a lot of penalties here, I think.
Just waiting for that timer to tick down now for this qualifying session. Of course, I don't believe we've received a weather report just yet. Unless you have, I definitely have not. So maybe we're seeing something unique here. Everybody has qualified on softs. And that is telling me something. And it could be that maybe we see some rain. I hope so. But of course, really quick, once again, for all of you tuning in, we're going to go down through this grid real quick for the top 5, and then we'll go through the rest for the formation lap. It is going to be Ben the Bear in the Red Bull on pole position, with Freeware lining up next to him in second, and that's Shenjie rounding out your top 3 in the Alfa Romeo, with Yoda in 4th, and Remco Van Putten for the top 5. We are going to go through the rest of this grid for you in just a few moments on the formation lap.
Just seeing whether we can get a weather report from any of the drivers, but other than that, we are in the dark as always. And then there are clouds, but like you said earlier, we've been teased with clouds before this week around Canada. So, and according to Finn, it is clear for the race. So it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any rain here for this evening.
Well, I imagine that's going to be a sigh of relief to the majority of this grid. You never know what may unfold when the wet weather comes, and we've seen it throughout the season, some wet weather. Never a full wet race. It's always been some kind of dry start or wet start into. It's been a dynamic change. We saw Zandvoort starting on the wet going into dry, and then we saw China where it went from dry to wet, and it was just absolute scenes at the end of that one. Then we saw Tier 2 as well in Monaco, where it just came down at the end of that one.
And that was one of those ones where some drivers thought it was bad enough for full wets, and they didn't have the pace, but no one knew whether it was going to get worse. And that's when you love it, when rain really plays with not only the dry to wet strategy, but also the intermediates to the wet strategy. So definitely a great race, that one. But now here in Canada, just because we don't have rain doesn't mean there aren't strategic changes to be had. Obviously, the top 10, like you said, all on soft tyres, but out of that, only 2 drivers on the softs. Everyone on mediums, or Mito and Arda on hard tyres. So, still strategic differences up and down this grid.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see with all of that. Well, that back of the pack on those harder compound tires. Of course, once again, Ben the Bear on pole position, Freeware in second. That's Shenjie in third, with Yoda in fourth, Van Putten in fifth. You have Alex Bitto in 6th position here, ZZ 9 and 7th, Jake in 8th, Tim and Sever in 9th, as well as Fraser rounding out your top 10. Domi in 11th with his teammate for the occasion, Lamp, in a reserve role in 12th position, Arda 13th, Burke in 14th. You have Money there in 15th with Mito in 16th, as well as Astrodite in 17th position here. You have Jones, Max Inkster, and Finn rounding out the bottom 3 drivers for this race. Of course, everybody getting their tires hot here. And it's going to be Freeware and Ben the Bear now coming through this into the grid. Looks like Shenjie may have disconnected here. I'm not entirely sure, but of course, we'll have to see what happens, as it's Ben the Bear and Freeware on the front row. And of course, Unicorn, we're all getting these drivers onto the grid now. I will happily have you take us through this race start.
Well, we're just waiting for the last few drivers, I think, to form up. There we go. This grid is set. And we're seeing lights, but the drivers aren't seeing them yet. The revs are still low. The lights going once again, but it's more the RPM we're looking for here. There we are. Ben revving his Red Bull's engine, and here we are. Away we go here at Canada for the final time this week. And it's ZZ9 trying to squeeze past on the outside. He's been rammed into the wall, into the rear of the Racing Point. I think that's Alex Bitto. He's lost an end plate already on the left-hand side of his Ferrari. Remco Van Putten, he's holding on to 5th as a result of that, but it's Freeware up into the lead of this Grand Prix at an early stage. TMS Sever, he's up 2 places after the 2 Ferraris had issues trying to get past, but it's now Jake under pressure from Fraser. He's already up 1 place on the inside.
Remco just dispatched Yoda here, and Yoda under serious threat. That's the Spaniard of Alex Bitto looking at him, but Yoda's not done with the Dutchman. They're coming into the 8-9 chicane, and Yoda's made it through in front for now, and it's quite clean so far. Putin really struggling coming out of turn 9 here, and it looks like Alex Bitto tapped him a little bit, but of course Alex has a little bit of wing damage. That front left end plate missing, as you said, and now they're coming through the hairpin, and Tillman Sever is very close to this. Domi and Jake wheel-to-wheel coming out of turn 10. They've tapped through turn 11. Now they're still wheel-to-wheel. It's the Ferrari on the rear of the Williams coming down this casino straight, and this is just a fantastic race start. Now Alex Bitto was very tight there. He's jumped into the pit lane, and that train of cars is starting to fly through the chicane.
Yeah, absolutely crazy race start, and it doesn't look like drivers are done yet. It is still Freeware in lead of this race. A little bit of a gap to Ben the Bear, but it's not much. Ben the Bear looking, but he's not going to find a way past at the moment.
So Alex and Lamp into the pit lane on the opening lap here. Both of them getting some wing changes, I could only imagine. I know Alex had that front left end plate damage. I'm not entirely sure how it went for Lamp and the Williams, but he did start this race in the middle of this pack. Can be a very, very big struggle. And according to the timing tower, he's also 37.8 seconds quick around here. But of course, Ben the Bear hunting down Freeware right now, and there's a whole whack of drivers in close proximity of one another. One of the most notable is Domi on Tillman Sever. They're coming down into the hairpin with a lunge through into the inside. There was a little bit of a door, but Domi maybe a little bit too quick down into the hairpin. We'll have to see if he took damage. It doesn't look like he did, but he's hunting down this Haas right now in a fight for P6.
Something similar happened further down. Fraser's just dropped a multitude of positions after trying to dive up the side of, I believe it was Jones, who's behind the other Mercedes, and he got almost spun around, but he got spun off the course, so able to recover, but now into the pit lane for the Mercedes, his teammate, under a little bit of pressure from Jones, who's up 7 places on this race start compared to ZZ9, who's down 3.
Yeah, and if you thought that the timings on the tower were as a result of DRS, I have a news flash for you. DRS was just enabled now, and I think this grid's going to get even tighter.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers well within that DRS range, so we're going to have to see how that plays into the hands of these drivers as they come out of turn 7. The first few, it's ZZ9. He's going to be the first one to benefit from this, I think, up the inside of Burke, and you can see how much that benefits him straight through turn 8, both getting out of turn 9 safely, and ZZ9 back up.
Yeah,
one of the places he
Jones
lost. Now Jones, yep.
with a move on the inside, very tight to the rear of that Mercedes through. How's the exit going to go for this one? Ooh, a little bit of a wheel bang there. The front left to the back right. And it's Burke currently leading this racing point down the casino straight, but it's going to be DRS for both of them. And is ZZ9 going to lose out here? You can see a great run coming out of the McLaren up the inside into the chicane. How's it going to go? He's got the inside line. They're wheel to wheel. ZZ9 takes a penalty, and Jones is moving through on both of them.
Yeah, and Burke now looking at the inside, not going to get the angle he wants, and it's ZZ9 now with the inside into turn 2. He's on the McLaren. Who's going to get the better exit here, though? Sometimes the outside line can be a little bit faster on exit. Burke just ahead by a moment, but into turns 3 and 4. Side by side, risky, but they've kept it clean. But it is the Mercedes is coming out on top now. Is Money going to have a look on the inside of the McLaren? Not at the moment, but DRS is about to come into play. Obviously, most of these cars are going to have DRS on the car in front, but it's Money with an excellent exit out of 7. He is side by side with the McLaren. Down now into turn 8, and it is Money ahead of the McLaren of Burke for the time being.
Yeah, fantastic chain of cars driving through that Sector 2 section right now. Jumping on with Tim and Sever. He's been gaining on Domi here. Unless they've exchanged at this point, I can't really tell because we've been so focused on that great battle in the midfield. But one thing I can confirm is that Ben the Bear is still gaining on Freeware, and that change for leadership has not flipped. It's still going to be the second position driver leading this race over the pole sitter. And now Astrodate has a big issue. He's got to run through the chicane. We'll have to see if he takes a warning there. But Finn just took a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane, and there's just so much action happening on this grid right now. Domi has caught up with Remco Van Putten, and Domi's in a great position here, Unicorn. He's on these medium compound tires, and he really doesn't have that much time separating him and these drivers ahead on the softs, and they are going to have to come in long before he does.
Yeah, not much time at all. He's now actually sort of pulling away from Tim and Senna. I'm assuming Tim and Senna might have an issue, as that's Jake with a big slide in the Ferrari out of turn 7. like I said, Domi, on these medium tyres, he's right on the rear of Remco Van Putten, and he's really benefiting right now from DRS. Obviously, in 6th place right now, as we've got the Renault of Arda with an issue in Sector 2. But yeah, Domi really benefiting from DRS right now. Is he going to have the pace on Remco Van Putten? It doesn't look like he's got the exit out of turn 10 that he probably want, but he's got overtake, he's got DRS, and that's two things that can lead to a certain overtake. And up into 5th place goes the Williams, and they've kept it clean coming through champions, but now it's going to be the Red Bull on the rear of the Williams up the inside into turn 1. Domi, though, carrying a lot more speed with DRS still down the start-finish straight, and Domi holding on to 5th place with Remco Van Putten have to counter-steer. A little bit of a slide there as Ben the Bear picks up his first 3-second time penalty of the race, I do believe.
Yeah, that's going to really hurt the Thai driver in the Red Bull right now, and here's another thing you got to take into consideration. These softs, even the traction we saw coming out of Van Putten, really starting to hurt these guys on the red walled tire. And as I say, Jones on these mediums is hunting down Jake in that Ferrari right now. They're coming through the Sector 2 DRS straight into 8-9 and Tillman Sever. What on earth happened there? Jake with an issue. He pulled offline. And he's now dropped into 10th position. ZZ9 and Jones are going to inherit. And it's going to be Jake with a move back. Or excuse me, that's Money getting taken. Or taking Jake for P10. Wow, Jake just... What on earth happened to the Ferrari there? Shenjay has come into the pit lane now. He's the first of the front 3 to blink. He's getting off the softs.
Yeah, I think that was more something to do with Tim and Sever, as we're seeing more drivers come into the pits, because Tim and Sever seems really slow through that 8-9 chicane, and I don't think Jake was expecting it, and he just had to dive out the way to avoid getting any front wing damage. But yeah, unfortunate for the Ferrari driver. Up at the front, Ben the Best still charging after Freeware. Half a second is the gap right now, and Freeware starting to lose a little bit of traction, it would seem, on these soft tires, as Ben is really starting to gain on him now. DRS down between 7 and 8. Is Ben the Bear going out to get Freeware, or are they going to both come into the pits at the end of this lap here?
I think we're going to see both of these drivers coming into the pit lane. You can see a lot of harder compound tires migrating to the front of this grid right now. There's only 5 drivers left on this entire grid on the red walled tire. It's Freeware, Ben, Yoda, as well as Van Putten and ZZ9 there in 7th. And you can see they're within very tight intervals of all of these drivers that they're competing with right now, with the exception of Yoda. He's in a world of his own right now in that Racing Point, having a good drive. But let's take a look. Freeware's in. Ben says, okay, game on. I'm going to stay out. So Freeware now with a very clear undercut attempt on that AlphaTauri. ZZ9 gaining on Jones into the 13-14 chicane, and he's going to jump in as well. So Van Putten, Yoda, and Ben the Bear all going the distance for 8 laps here on the red walled tire. Everybody else onto the hards or mediums.
Yeah, I think Ben the Bear was really the one who was holding the cards there, because he has just, it would seem, so much more traction than Freeware was having through all of those corners. And Freeware now thinking, okay, this is the time I have to come into the pits. He can follow me, or he can stay out and try and stretch those softs a little bit longer, as ZZ9 coming out of the pit lane just ahead of Arda there in the Renault.
With all these differences of tires and all of these drivers in the front on the softs, they're going to fall through into the middle of this grid somewhere, and we're going to see a lot of overtaking happening throughout this race. We're only on lap 8, and we've already seen a massive amount of action. And speaking of action, Shenjay with a dive on the Haas into the hairpin. That's Astrodite defending. But of course, there's a major tire differential. Astrodite started this race on his mediums, whereas Shenjay, that first of the front 3 to come in, he's going to be looking to cut through this grid and make up as much time as he can. And him coming out with that DRS equation on that Haas is going to give him a little bit of a leg up, I think, on Ben, as well as Freeware here. Freeware dropped into 11th position, and he's got to make up some time. Max Inkster ahead of him. He's going to have DRS coming out of 14 is Freeware. Moving to the outside of that Renault. Max Inkster, of course, he's on his starting tire. Not much he can do about the speed difference right now. And there's still penalties coming up all across the board from Race Control, Unicorn.
Yeah, I was going to say, Freeware, speaking of him in that AlphaTauri, he's just picked up his first 3-second time penalty, so that brings him level with Ben the Bear for the time being. So we'll have to see how this plays into us at the end, whereas Shenjie currently clean 2 warnings for the Alfa Romeo driver, but no penalties to speak of as of right now. Now, Domi, 8-lap old mediums. He's starting to catch Yoda. He's got DRS on the racing point ahead of him. Is Yoda going to take this as a sign to come into the pit lane, or is he going to go for even more laps? It's Ben Bear ahead of him, lead of this race. He's coming to the pit lane. Yoda staying out though. He's got the Williams right behind him, and this is going to battle is going to cost him a little bit of time, I would imagine. Even if Domi tears away, he's going to want to defend a little bit. But up the inside goes the Williams driver into turn 1, forcing Yoda a little bit wide, but he's still holding the inside into turn 2. But there he goes. Domi around the outside holds on to the first place for now.
Yoda would be in a way better position here to take DRS on this driver, because if Yoda wants to make these softs last, he needs to start taking care of them a little bit. And there's a big sideward step coming through out of turn 6. He goes through 7 a little bit neater. It kind of lined him up for a good exit, but he's going to lose time on these softs, not carrying a lot of traction. And now Shenjie has caught up with Jones.
Yeah, Shenjie up the inside of Jones way before turn 8. He's got that move done, and I want to speak about Shenjie actually. He came into the pits, like you said, the first of the front runners to come in, and he's now in 4th place, whereas Ben the Bear, fresher tyres, but he's in 8th, and Freeware, he's lost out hugely. He's in 9th place, and he's 3.8 seconds behind the Red Bull driver, so he's lost out a huge amount of time in this pit window.
I have a funny feeling if we don't see a safety car here, we're still going to see Shenjie do a 2-stop. I think he's going to go for a soft, medium, but meanwhile, as we say, Ben the Bear on his outlap here has overtaken Astrodite. He's into 7th position, and he's going to hold a little bit more pace on those mediums come the fight to the wire right now, as Remco Van Putten has blinked. He's finally gotten onto some medium compound tires. We're going to see where he jumps out. The Red Bull looking to, I'm sure, catch up with Ben a little bit here. He's being overtaken as he comes out of the pit lane. What's the final standing position going to be?
Jones has had a spin out of turn 2. He's on the grass. He's not in the way. I hate to interrupt, but he is losing a huge number of positions.
Well, there's not a lot he can do. He's just got to try and keep that car moving so that it's not to be stationary, and he's trying to back it out to get a little bit of a... Well, MRL not allowed to reset the track. He's got to let these drivers go, and there's a way to do this, but he's got to wait, and it's just that turn 2 with the traction can cost you big time, and we've talked about it all week. Canada, a circuit where, as Fraser gets ahead of Arda into 12th position, but Canada, a circuit where the DRS is so strong and it's such a flowing circuit. Should you make a mistake like that, it's going to cost you, especially when the grid's as tight as it is here for Club.
Oh, he's come off again as well. This time to turn 3 and 4.
ZZ9. Sorry to interrupt. ZZ9 wheel to wheel with Alex Bitto. It looks like Alex Bitto holding it right now in 9th position against that Mercedes.
I was just going to say, Ben the Bear, he's made another position. He's up to 4th place and is now hunting down Shenjie, whose tyres are 3-lap older than that of the Red Bull.
Ben the Bear, deadly pace in that Red Bull. Saw him in the Oceanic practice yesterday competing against Revo. And, of course, unfortunately, he was out of that race as a result of the turn 14 exit. Losing that rear bit, cooking the tires, maybe a little bit of loss on traction. So his race, he ended up being on the back foot. Still managed to finish quite well, but not where he wanted, I don't think. Shenjie right now, however, is going to have a little bit of an opportunity. He's caught up with Yoda. So he's going to have DRS coming down the casino straight here, and that could keep him at bay away from Ben the Bear as Yoda continues on these softs, and he is the driver who has gone the longest on the softs in this race. And I think he may be looking for a one-stop to mediums here.
Yeah, or at least the hards as Shenjie comes past him into turn 1, but yeah, 12-lap hole, he's 2 seconds down his last lap compared to his previous, or his personal best, I think. But yeah, interesting he's going for so long. Astrodite into the pits after staying on his mediums for 11 laps, but yeah, Yoda staying out on these tires, a little bit surprising to me, but he is still keeping it on the track.
Now Mito's got a real problem. Remco Van Puten's caught up with him, and he is absolutely rapid coming out of turn 4 here. Is he going to make it through the outside, coming through turn 5? That's the Red Bull on the inside through into turn 6. As they come through out of 7, that's Remco Van Puten ahead, but it's not over for the McLaren because that's ZZ9 on a charge through coming out of turn 7. He's on the inside, and now there's another exchange. Ben the Bear has already made it into 3rd position. He's taken Yoda into the turn 10 hairpin, which I can only imagine DRS being of assistance. No, sorry, not DRS, but a good exit out of turn 9 being of assistance there.
It wasn't so much a good exit, but Yoda having a really bad one, almost losing the car. Here he is into the pit lane. Those tires finally sort of hit the cliff, and he almost spun it, but he held on to it, and like you said, just allowed Ben Lebet to plow through the hairpin. So now Shenji in lead of this race, but behind him, a very hard charging bull behind him of Ben the Bear.
That's right, and we just saw, of course, Remco Van Puten. He's now back into 5th. He's made a move ahead of Alex Bitto. He's going to be looking to catch up with Money, who's on the older mediums. But, of course, we saw the speed difference between the 3-lap-old mediums with the DRS against Alex on those 12-lap-old mediums, and it was just a cruise for the Dutchman to move by that Ferrari and the Red Bull.
Yeah, Freeman, he's back into the podium positions as well, but 6 seconds off of Ben the Bear. It's a big gap.
Yeah, a lot of drivers in this midfield on some fresh rubber here between Yoda and Domi. They're going to be looking to make a lot of positions. Domi currently within 1.5 seconds of the Albanian driving the racing point today. That's Yoda, of course, in 9th. You have Jake in this Ferrari. He's hunting down the Mercedes of Fraser ahead. He has a good energy reserve here, and he's got fresher rubber, so we'll have to see what the speed difference is coming out of this hairpin, because I can only imagine he'll have DRS coming out through turn 11.
And interesting enough, the Williams of Lamp currently in 20th position, so I don't know what happened to him to get put behind Jones, who's we've seen had a multitude of issues. There he goes past him in the pit lane. He's just unlapped himself from Money, so as Jones comes out just ahead of Lamp, so those guys are going to have a little bit of a battle here at the mid stage of this race, as Lamp takes a huge amount on the inside curve at turn 3.
Fraser in this fight with Jake still. Jake looked at him going into the Wall of Champions 13-14 chicane, but Fraser was very smart there. You'll notice that Mercedes, if you look back, he held that inside line, and that Ferrari actually pulled off through the chicane because that inside line is so strong through that right-left chicane for Wall of Champions that he just said, okay, I'm not even going to bother there. But of course, down through turns 1 and 2, it was a different story, and Jake has now dispatched this Mercedes successfully. And Fraser's dropping here. It's Astrodite, who's come off of mediums, onto another set of mediums, who's going to be looking to go for another good stint here. And right now, he's doing well to keep up with Fraser and the Ferrari ahead. I'm sure that Haas is going to have good pace coming out of this hairpin.
Yeah, just ahead of them, Yoda's snuck past Mito. 14-lap old mediums attached to that McLaren, as Fraser still within DRS range of Jake, as Domi gets Mito as well. But Fraser really drawing the gap back down to Jake, but a big lock-up into turn 13. Might cost him a little bit of time. Jake right on the left-hand side of this track, going down into turn 1. The Ferrari still holding on to 10th place, but like you were saying, Astrodite, he's not out of this fight either. Now, Fraser not going to have to do anything through 3 and 4, but still.
I want to switch to Domi and Yoda, because Yoda defending hard against a Williams here right now, and they're on the same tires. Yoda coming out through turn 7 here, very clean, but DRS for the Williams. Is he going to have an opportunity? Yoda with a little bit of a hold to the inside there. He's just kind of trying to defend, making sure that that Williams doesn't have an optimal run through into 8-9. He's got a clean exit through turn 9 here, coming into the hairpin. This is where we're going to see things happen. This is where there isn't a lot that can be done, because you come down into this long casino straight here. You tap through this inside curb. That's turn 11. Then you come through. You have that DRS right here at 12. And then you go through the long straight into the 13-14 chicane. And you can just see the speed difference that DRS provides as Yoda drops into 8th position. Domi with that optimal inside line through there. Yoda, not a lot he can do here. And that's also going to be Domi with the DRS coming into turn 1. Yoda's not going to see DRS here until he comes through out of the turn 7 chicane.
Yeah, fresh tyres paying dividends for Astrodite. He's got past both Fraser and Jake in that previous lap. So excellent moves done, both assisted by DRS for the Haas driver.
ZZ9 hunting down Alex Bido right now. The Spaniard on some pretty old rubber at this point. He's on 15 lap old mediums. Could be looking to get onto some softs down the line. But so much action happening on this grid through this whole race. Money on those hards. He's coming out of turn 7. He's going to have a little bit of DRS here as well. But we're going to switch back on over to ZZ9 because there's a move, it would appear, coming down to the hairpin. But he decides against it. But he's got a great run. And as I say, Money jumps Tim and Sever here. There looks like there's an issue. Tim and Sever through the runoff section of turn 8-9. And then we jump back with ZZ9. He's got the DRS on the Spaniard, and there's just so much action going on. We're trying to stay on board with all of it. Alex Bido ahead into the chicane here. Patient is, of course, ZZ9, but he's going to have DRS and overtake at his disposal. Not using that battery, though, coming down into turn 1 and 2. So very patient coming out of that Mercedes right now.
Yeah, it was a little bit too far back as we have our first retirement. Finn in the Alpha Tauri. He had an issue in turn 10. I don't know if it was before that, but he lost his entire front wing. As Alex Bido picks up another 3-second time penalty and then managed to limp his car back to the pit lane, and that's where he's retired there. So no safety car or VSC to speak of for our first retirement, and racing has been very clean so far throughout this club race, as Ben the Bear is also back in DRS range of Shenji for lead of this race.
Yeah, Yoda trying to hunt down Domi still as ZZ9 with a move on the Spaniard. Finally, is it going to happen down into the hairpin? The Mercedes on the outside through. That's going to be Alex looking to defend on the inside. A switchback attempt there from ZZ9 perhaps? No. Alex with enough traction to keep him alive for the time being. But of course, less than half a second is the gap right now from 6th to 5th. And it's going to be DRS again for the Mercedes here on these mediums. A little bit fresher than Alex, but Alex sticking out on these mediums as long as he can.
Yeah, and Alex Bido is not the only Mercedes, not the only Ferrari under fire from a Mercedes, as Fraser comes past Jake just before the champion chicane, so he's up until 11th place.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Unicorn. That was Domi with a move on the Mercedes into turn 2. He had the line, but he just didn't have the exit. ZZ9 very careful now because he has had Domi come through on him. He knows that he now needs to worry about not only the Spaniard ahead of him to maintain position, but he has to worry about the Hungarian of Domi just hunting him down behind. And Domi is going to be looking for both of these drivers, and he's got some fast boys behind him in Yoda, and Astrodite is on some fresh tires as well. So these guys need to make a decision. Their fighting is costing them massively here.
Yeah, and Yoda picks up a 3-second time penalty. Who is going to come out on top of what is this DRS train we've got from 5th down through 8th? And it's Alex Bido with a big lockup. That's going to allow ZZ9 a look on the inside, but Alex Bido has managed to recover that outside line, proving to just have the traction and the speed you need on exit. It's cost Yoda a bit of time, but it's Domi on the outside of the Mercedes ZZ9. He's up into 6th place, but is he going to get Alex Bido as well done into Alex Bido into the pit lane? And that could have been an interesting move had Alex Bido staying out on track, getting off those 17-lap-old mediums. Now down towards turn 1, the Williams is in lead of this train. No one going for a move, but Domi a little bit deep. Is that going to allow ZZ9 or Yoda any moves? Yoda a little bit of a slide out of turn 2, but the positions stay the same for the moment.
This has been a great race so far, Unicorn. It's definitely been a clean one. That I can say for sure. We haven't had a lot of contact, not a lot of issues here. Drivers are being very patient. No full safety cars, knock wood. We've got 16 laps left of contention here. We're counting the present one, of course, and it's still ZZ9. He's losing time here to Domi, but this is costing Yoda big time because he needs to get through on that Mercedes to get back to his rival in Domi. They're on the same tires. They were holding position. Of course, Domi overtaking Yoda. It's going to be the Albanian that wants to get that slot back. Meanwhile, Tim and Sever, he's made a move through into 15th position. He has now dispatched Burke in 16th. And Shenji, in lead of this race, has now got a very large issue with Ben the Bear. Hopefully going to be able to dispatch him very soon. He's on 3-lap fresher rubber. We'll have to see what the Alfa Romeo can do here in lead of this race. And Freeware has jumped onto some fresh mediums as well. So that's a very curious strategy to see. He's going for a committed 2-stop now because he's gone off softs onto mediums onto another set, and he's going to plop out into 8th position, I do believe. Unless Jake gets through into turn 2. He's coming down through now. It's going to be tight. No, it wasn't even. So it's going to be Freeware safe into 8th position to hunt down the rest of this grid. And he's got good pace. We saw him leading this race for a time. Ben the Bear Very tight on the rear of Shenjay coming out of the hairpin. He's going to have that battery. He's going to have DRS. Is he going to be able to make the move here? What line is Shenjay going to choose coming into the chicane?
Yeah, Ben the Bear DRS is looking on the inside, but he's too far back. Shenjay now into the pit lane, and I think Ben the Bear here, staying out earlier on, it didn't net him the position on Shenjay this time around, but now Ben the Bear's tyres are now 12 laps old, coming on to lap 22. I think he can hold out here for another 3 or 4 laps. We saw Freeware and Shenjay take their tyres a similar distance, and he can pit onto some softs at the end of this race, provided he's got a fresh set available to him. And I think that could get him some really deadly pace, as Remco Van Putten, his teammate, comes into second place now. So Red Bull could have both strategies covered here come the end of this race. And Shenjay comes out in 3rd place, so he's done a lot better than Freeware there in terms of coming out in traffic. So Freeware, he's got a lot of people to carve through to get back onto that podium, but Shenjay, he's retained the podium position just a couple steps lower.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Van Putten here on those tires. Ben the Bear, however, he's got a sizable lead, and we'll just have to see how that lead comes down with that fresh rubber for Shenjay. We'll have to see how it works out for Freeware as well. You can see the gap to leader right now for Freeware, 30 seconds to Ben. Shenjay, it's only 16. Freeware, of course, did start this race on the front row next to the tie driver who did it on pole, and it is going to be Ben into the pit lane, so he says, no way am I going to risk that. So he comes in. What's he going to jump onto is the big question. Is it going to be mediums? So it is. What a race we're seeing unfold here. A lot of strategy at play. 2 stops is what you love to see in some of these races. It isn't often you get to see that unless the safety car comes out, and we haven't had one of those yet here either. Where's Ben the Bear going to drop? He's coming down through the run out of the pit lane. It's going to be the Williams of Domi on the inside, and he's only a second behind Shenjay right now. This is going to be Ben the Bear on a charge, and of course it's going to be his teammate holding up the Alfa Romeo. What a dynamic.
Not only is he in DRS range of Shenjay stuck behind Remco Van Putten, Ben's teammate Shenjay with ERS and DRS, he's going to dispatch that Red Bull. A little bit of wheel touching as they go down into 8 and 9. Shenjay off of the track, but he's into the lead of this race now.
I think we're going to see a little bit of slingshot and gauge action here coming from the Dutchman on the tie. It's going to be Ben the Bear coming through the hairpin of 10. Remco Van Putten actually has a fantastic exit over that Alfa Romeo. Could be the tires just not up to temperature yet. Of course, that DRS going to play a significant role here, and it's just going to be Ben the Bear and his teammate skating by the Alfa. But Ben jumping on the brakes. Is he going to get Shenjay coming out of 14 here? This is a battle for serious position. Remco Van Putten is in the lead of this race, but he's on some older compound tires. Shenjay holding to the inside through 1. That's Ben the Bear going wide and deep. Shenjay holding for now, but of course that Red Bull of Remco Van Putten, unless Shenjay can get out of that, well, that bad air, it's going to be really difficult for him here.
Yeah, I think as much as Ben, may have made a mistake at turn 1, I think it was very smart to back out down through champions. We've seen a few issues there, but it's now Shenjay again. DRS, no ERS this time, around the outside into turn 8, not making the move this time, having to stay on track, and now that's going to give Ben the Bear a little bit of a better run, it would appear. Shenjay now looking up the inside into turn 10. Remco Van Putten taking the wide line, looking for the better exit, but it is going to be the Alfa Romeo up into P1.
It was important for Shenjay to do that move when he did. Had he done it into 8-9, it would have been the bad move, because now he's got DRS. And now it's Ben the Bear, who's dropped off of Remco just a little bit here. He's letting these two fight, but this is going to cost Ben the Bear. Shenjay wanted that DRS on the Dutchman. He wants to try and pull away just as well as he can, and it's going to be Van Putten here, who I don't think had DRS. I didn't see that rear wing open. I could be mistaken, but he hasn't been able to do anything about Shenjay moving into the lead of this race, and we're going to have to see if team orders do actually play a role here. It looks like they do. Van Putten with a clear pull-off to the inside coming into the chicane. And now that has actually unlocked a massive battle here for the lead of this race. Of course, if I'm not mistaken, Shenjay and Ben the Bear equal in penalties. Of course, we'll get that situation looked after in just a second. We're going to jump back down, though, through the grid. Jake coming out of the Wall of Champions chicane. He's in a fight with Mito, and it's the second closest gap on the grid, too. Of course, Domi, who is still in a fight with Yoda, and somehow, we didn't see it, but of course, Yoda getting out in front of that Williams once again in the Racing Point.
Yeah, I was about to draw attention to these guys, because not only have these guys slightly fresher tyres than Remco Van Putten, so maybe they'll have the advantage towards the end of this race, but Freeware as well, 4-lap old mediums. Is he going to be able to close this 6.7 second gap to Domi Yoda ahead of him, and maybe even Remco Van Putten if he can find the pace?
Been a great race so far. Speaking of great, Alex Bitto, a driver who's had a very good season. He's leading the championship. He hasn't had the greatest of races, but he's had a good season, and he moves into 7th position in the Ferrari. Ahead of course, the Ferrari-powered Haas. That's Astrodate, who's also been having a fairly decent drive here. Take a look at the position changes now. Astrodate's up 9 into 8th position. He had a good qualifying in the end, but it was a very tight grid. And he is into 8th comfortably right now on those medium compound tires. But of course, he's only stopped once. He's going to have to stop again if I'm not mistaken.
Well, here's some other news from as Remco Van Putten gets a 3-second time penalty right on cue. The leaders of this race, Shenjie, he picked up a couple warnings early on, but on these medium tires, he hasn't had a single warning, so he's currently penalty free. Ben the Bear, he's got a couple penalties to his name, as does his teammate Remco Van Putten, both 6 seconds for the Red Bull. Yoda behind them, he's got 6 seconds as well. Domi, he's only got 1 penalty to speak of. And Freeware has a whole host. He's got at least 15 seconds worth of penalties, I do believe. So Alex Bitto, he's on even more than that. So Shenjie right now looking pretty comfortable as far as penalties are concerned. And obviously he is also leading on track as well. So we'll have to see how they play a factor in the end of this race, but right now, looking like the podium might be quite safe for the time being.
Yoda in 4th position, I imagine, wanting to get on the podium twice in a row here. But I imagine Remco Van Putten being ahead of Yoda, wanting to beat him out, as it isn't how it unfolded for the two when they came to the line in Tier 1 yesterday.
And Ben the Bear, he's also...
Sorry to interrupt. Big shake out of 9 there for Domi. He's going to lose a little bit. But these battles in this front 5, very tight right now. Penalties playing a role. Ben the Bear now with a good run out of the hairpin. Shenjie dropping into 2nd. Not a lot he can do to defend against that run with the DRS.
Yeah, like I said, not a lot he needs to do either, but Ben the Bear's managed to get DRS as Yoda gets past Domi, and they're into the pit lane, the pair of them. Fresh shots, presumably from both of them. I think Yoda just picked up a penalty as well, 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. But here we are, which pit crew is going to get these guys out faster? Yoda onto the fresh softs, Domi as well. And they come out pretty much side by side. As Alex Bitto now into 5th place in the Ferrari.
Astrodate, as I said, had to pit again. He's onto the softs. He went for the medium soft strategy here. He wants the fast tires at the end of this race. Where is he going to come out? Where is this going to land him? Jake is going to move through into 10th position. Mito into 11th. Is Fraser going to get him? It's going to be close. There's Fraser. Astrodate right on the rear. Coming down through into turn 3 and 4. Cold tires, doesn't matter. He's going to get it through. They're coming through, and it looks like he's made it happen for now. So, Astrodate on the 2-stop, coming out into 12th position. No safety cars impacting the stoppages in this race here so far.
So speaking of pit lane entry, a penalty you don't see all too often. Domi got 5 seconds for crossing the white line on exit, and Yoda picked up 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane, so this is going to be a sigh of relief from the Racing Point that Domi there picking up a 5-second penalty that he really didn't need to. Definitely an avoidable one there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle between Yoda and Domi to the line here. Maybe we'll see another photo finish between Yoda and another driver. Who knows what's in the Albanian's mind right now in 7th. But there's fights brewing all over this circuit right now. And the biggest one to talk about, of course, is that fight for this race lead. And it could be Shenjie, knowing about Ben's penalties, just wanting to keep things smooth here. Maintain a good position to Ben and just net that position when the line comes. It is the conservative play here, I think, coming out of Shenjie.
Yeah, he doesn't need to risk anything on a track that You know, you can cause an incident if you're battling too hard and you really want to get past, but if he knows about that penalty, you can see the pace he's got with DRS coming down towards the champion chicane. He's not going to go for the move nowhere near close enough, but it does look like Ben does have a little bit more pace to some of these corners than the Alfa Romeo, but like you said, Shenjie penalty free at the moment, and Ben with 6 seconds, I do believe, as of right now. Shenjie just has to play it cool.
Trying to figure out the fastest lap at the moment, as Lamp has one that I believe is a bug, considering it's 37.885 seconds, that Williams, but the fastest lap is a 110. Question is, which 110 is it? I'm just trying to sift through. I believe it is held onto presently by Alex Bitto. So we'll have to see what that point ends up yielding here.
Yeah, a 110.399 for Alex Bitto, I believe, is definitely the fastest lap time. So he'll be happy to pick up that extra point, provided he keeps it, as Tiernan Sever has had an issue. And that's a VSC. I missed it on Jones. It's going to be...
Well, that's the first sign of yellow caution that we've seen really all race.
That car is in a very interesting position. Hopefully someone else could go past that for us. Money now. On board with him. We'll see where that Haas is. It doesn't look like it's disappeared now. It looked like it was propped up on the outside wall, as the rear wheels had been raised, so not quite sure what happened there, and if that was as a result of contact with another car for Tiernan Sever. Hopefully an onboard or something can aid the stewards if need be.
Into the pit lane. Why? Is a big question I want to know.
He's going to serve the 5 seconds as well, I think.
Fastest
He's got
lap.
damage on that front wing.
Fastest lap. I think he's going to gun for fastest lap here.
He has huge damage on the front wing. I don't think he had a choice, but he is going to go for fastest lap.
Yeah, you can see the mechanic holding it in the garage. Massive front left damage, so he's going to come out on these softs. It's going to be a very, very big loss for him, and that's going to give Yoda a little bit of breathing space to hunt down Alex.
So I wonder whether Domi came together with Tiernan Sever. I don't know how that would have happened, but that level of front wing damage in the position of Tiernan Sever car, definitely what would indicate, and definitely a possible outcome for both things. Now Bain crossing onto the 32nd lap of 35 here. Shenjie out of DRS range now of the leader, but is Ben going to be able to pull a big enough gap as Yoda passes Alex Bitto down on the back straight for 5th place? But I don't think...
is on a chart as well. He's got Jake in the Ferrari ahead of him. Jake, not entirely sure what was going on there. I don't think was Aphrodite. Jake with a little bit of a move. He comes through. I don't think he took damage. Aphrodite, he did not. So fortunately, nothing happened there. That could have been terrible, but he took a 3-second time penalty. So that's going to cost him, and I'm not entirely sure what happened between Jake and Astro in that straight coming out of turn 11, but we'll have to see if stewards have to take a look. Yoda now 5.4 seconds on these soft compound tires behind the drivers ahead. And things have really, really drawn themselves out here through the final phase of this race. And it was so tight, so intense through this entire campaign. Jake now with DRS. We'll see if he's able to catch back up to Aphrodite. But the softs doing Astro a lot of good right now.
Yeah, and speaking of tires, I wonder whether Freeware, as we cross onto the 33rd lap, can catch Remco Van Putten. The gap right now, 2.3 seconds with just over 2 laps to go. Can he close that gap? Remco Van Putten's tyres, 22 laps old, but Freeware's 12 lap old mediums. They're not going to be the fastest on this grid by a long shot. But he's going to be faster than the Red Bull ahead of him. Can he claw his way back onto this podium?
I'd wager he can, and I'll tell you why. Arda is right between these two right now, and that's going to give Freeware a unique opportunity for some DRS when he may have otherwise not getting it. And you can see Arda pulling off, so he's not going to have DRS. Arda's actually pulling out. Blue flags coming through for him.
Freeware has a couple more penalties than Remco Van Putten, so I think even if he makes the pass on track, I don't think he's going to hold it. There's definitely not enough time for him to draw out that gap, and I don't think there's enough time for Ben to draw out the gap either.
Astrodate, though, coming through turn 7. Money ahead of him in the Alfa Romeo. You can tell there's a big loss of grip there. Astrodate having to actually lift behind the rear of that Alpha coming out through turn 7. Clean through is the Haas into the 8-9 chicane. Jake's just taking a 3-second time penalty as well. So a lot of these drivers are going to have penalties. Astrodate, we know, took a 3-second time penalty pretty well through into the start of this lap. He goes a little bit deep through in the hairpin, and there's an issue.
Yeah, Freeware out of the chicane on one of the champions, and he's got damage on that front left, huge amounts, and that's going to slow him right down, and any hopes he had of a high point scoring finish. Our dash to Alex Bidow's going to get him. I imagine CZ9's probably going to catch him as well. And you can see him struggling to control that car.
Yeah, Alex Biddle going to be happy to net a position from the German there. And you know who else is going to be happy? It's the penultimate lap, and ZZ9 is right here as well. Freeware with another bash on that outside wall coming out through turn 7. And ZZ9 with a run here on the German through into the 8-9 chicane. Freeware just isn't able to do anything about that. He can't turn.
Yeah, and it's a terrible place to cause damage to your car because you have to do the entire lap with the damage. Whether we see Freeware here put into the pits or struggle on, it's probably going to be the pit lane. I would imagine it's too difficult.
Well, Astrodate's absolutely gaining on him. And Money and Jake are following through with Astrodate, so we'll have to see if those three drivers, 8, 9, and 10, are able to take another position away from Freeware. He jumps into the pit lane, and so they are going to get a position from him here. It's the final lap of the race. Freeware, hate to see it. He was having a heck of a drive today.
Yeah, really unfortunate, but I think he's probably thinking that he's going to be dangerous on track if he can't control his car as well as he'd like. So, unfortunate for him. But up at the front, it's going to be Ben the Bear. Still in lead of this race. If he only had one penalty, he would win it. But Shenjie running such a clean race, no penalties to his name. He is going to inherit this race win here, it would seem.
Yeah, he's coming down the casino straight now into the final chicane. We're going to jump back on over in that fight in the midfield right now, but we're just going to take a look as the Red Bull comes through now across the checkered flag waving here. It's going to be the race win for the Thai driver with Shenjie taking it from him on penalties, and it's Remco van Putten in the Red Bull. He's coming down the casino straight now, and it's looking like it's going to be a solid 2-3 finish for the Red Bull squad with the Alfa Romeo taking the win here.
Yeah,
Yoda.
great drive to get those tires to the end.
Yoda takes the flag in 4th. Alex Bido comes across in 5th. Where's ZZ9 going to land? He jumps Alex Bido, and Astrodate now, he's looking to finish. We're going to head back on over with Domi, because Domi very tight to the rear of Money, and Domi has, of course, Jake crawling on him, but it's going to be a fight to the line. We saw it yesterday. We're going to see it again. DRS, is it going to be enough? It's not to get Domi. Mito jumps him as well. Alex Bido has dropped massively through this grid into 10th position. I think we saw that Ferrari fall.
Yeah, what a race. Driver of the day going to Astrodite in game.
Astrodite, heck of a drive, getting that game awarded driver of the day for taking the most positions. Shenjie on the podium with the Brendan Lee avatar, of course. Brendan Lee, the F1 Esports champion for 2017 and 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, you have David Tanitsa in the game as well, but that's going to be Ben the Bear in 2nd, Remco van Putten in 3rd, and it's an Alpha win with a Red Bull 2-3 here for the 4th and final race of our Canadian race week for Misfits Racing League. Once again, from 3rd to 1st, Shenjie with the win. Ben the Bear on 2nd. He started this race in pole, and it's Remco van Putten rounding out your top 3. He started this race in 5th, and in comparison to yesterday's Tier 1 race, he has bested Yoda. They have flipped positions from where they finished yesterday. ZZ9 in 5th, Astrodate in 6th, Money in 7th, Mito in 8th, Domi in 9th, with Alex Bido dropping massively at the end of this one, rounding out your top 10 drivers here. You have Jake in 11th, Fraser in 12th, Freeware in 13th after a very, very strong drive, just taking damage there on the penultimate lap, costing him so much. And Max Inkster there, 14th, Jones in 15th, Burke in 16th, with Arda Tillman, Sever, Lamp, and Finn rounding out the last 4 drivers here on the grid for Renault, Haas, Williams, and AlphaTauri. Fantastic race from all of these drivers. A very clean race. Only 1 VSC through this Canadian Grand Prix. And that's something to be happy about for sure, considering some of the chaos that can definitely unfold here, Unicorn.
Yeah, I think outstanding from these drivers to keep it as clean as that was. Absolutely brilliant. And some really stellar drives, Shenjie keeping it penalty-free, well deserving of that race win despite Ben the Bear's pace. And Ben only kept picking up a couple penalties, you can't really fault him. It's a difficult track, and Remco Van Putten running out the podium as well. Those medium tyres must have been so worn at the end of this race, but his tyre management really paying off and able to take that final podium spot. Both Red Bulls on the podium as well, going to do wonders for the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors' Championship, I should say. And Alex Bitter as well being demoted. That's going to help Shenjie. I do think, if my maths is correct, that Shenjie is going to take lead of this championship, if not ZZ9, depending on how many points he receives. But Alex Bitter is going to be knocked off that top spot after that race. And what a race it was.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic race. Of course, if you guys enjoyed that race, if you're new to the channel, hit that follow button. We're live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday with a heck of a lot of wheel-to-wheel action for you. Next week, it is France. Following that, of course, Austria. And we have a fantastic 22 race season still to bring you with, I believe, 13 races left. So hope you guys tune in for that. Of course, join the Discord if you're looking to head on in.